So I've had some people reach out to me online related to some issues that they're having at work. They have senior level management or even people in C-level positions at their company who are now starting to talk about diversity, who are now starting to talk about implicit biases, white privilege, and from what they're telling me, this is something they didn't sign up for. They didn't think this was going to be something that would be a part of where they worked, and they're starting to have some concerns. They don't agree with it, but it's just being sold to them as if this is inherently a good thing. Nobody's really questioning it. So what I want to address today is the question that's been asked of me is, how do you filter companies? If you were looking for a job today, how would you filter through companies to find the companies that don't care about this stuff? The ones who aren't going to focus solely on diversity and inclusion, or companies that might not try to throw some implicit bias training down your throat. How would you filter through these companies? How would you find the ones that have values aligned with yours? Now, to be honest, there's really no clear-cut way to do this. It's not like companies are very open about this one way or the other, so it's kind of hard to do it, and I don't think there's just one way to address this issue. I think it's going to be a variety of factors that you kind of have to combine together to make a judgment for yourself. But again, this isn't something that a company is just going to come out and say, hey, we don't agree with diversity and inclusion and equity-based hiring unless you're Gab. But other than that, companies just aren't going to say it outright. So you kind of have to combine a variety of factors to come to some sort of conclusion yourself. I think one of the first ways you can approach this, and this is actually an approach that social justice warriors, people on the left use within tech as well, is to find a company that you're interested in. And then if they have a team page, or if you can go on LinkedIn and look up some of the people who work there, do some research on the employees themselves. If there are employees who are on the left or famous social justice warriors, probably not the place you want to work. For example, if you find somebody like this who says, I'm on an active mission to kick guys like these dudes out of our industry completely, yes, I will actively blacklist you. Yes, I will actively encourage others not to hire you. Yes, I will keep track. Probably not where you want to work. So if there are people like this online, look up where they work, look up, people they're friends with and those companies that they work at. Probably not the companies you want to work for. Another approach would be to look into the geography of the company itself. If you're in a very liberal state, it seems likely that a lot of the employees might be liberal, whereas if you're in a conservative state, it's more likely that the employees might be conservative. I found this thread on Hacker News. It's targeted towards women in tech, but I still think the insights are valuable. Not only, speaking to my point about geography, but also the type of company as well. This person says, as an openly trans woman, I've observed that the more traditional and conservative a business is, the more likely they are to provide a pleasant and non-discriminatory work environment, while freewheeling, look how modern we are startups are more likely to provide hostile working environments. My current employer is the best company I've ever worked for, and they are a highly conservative B2B telecom in Collin County, the fifth most conservative county in Texas. And B2B telecom is a highly conservative industry where nobody will deal with you unless your culture is highly corporate. Nobody has ever given me the slightest iota of shit for being trans, and I have never once felt discriminated against for being a woman. The environment is best described as highly corporate. The office is a cube farm as far as the eye can see. A huge amount of the people at the company, not everyone but a lot, especially those in senior and or management positions, are both Christian and conservative. Until very recently, the TV in the break room was always tuned to Fox News. So as she says, she's working for a company that's very corporate. It's a cubicle farm, and she's had no issues with her being trans whatsoever, even though it's a very conservative and Christian company. And this has actually been reflected in my own experience as well. The larger the companies that I've worked for, in general, the less political bullshit there is within the company. And I think it's because they have a proven track record. They've been in business for so long, they know how to make money, they're doing a good job of it, and they tend to be focused on money. So even though it's not as glamorous and it might not be as trendy, it doesn't have the name recognition amongst your friends, especially if you're younger, it might not have the work environment, like the actual work environment you want. If you're looking to avoid politics, that might be the place to go. So compare a company like that that's very corporate, might not be the company where it has a lot of name recognition. Compare that to a company that's very trendy, a company that's always in the news. They're going to do the diversity and inclusion stuff. They're going to do the implicit bias training. They're going to have, their company website sell all the things that they think are trendy, including diversity. So they don't really believe it, but it's something that they talk about because, well, that's what people are talking about, so that's what we should do. So the trendier the company is, I think the more likely it is that they're going to have a company culture that you're not going to like. Another thing to consider is the company and whether or not they're actually solving a real problem, and preferably within a competitive industry. Because if they're solving a real problem in a competitive industry, the thought of going out of business is always on their mind. The thought of losing market share is always on their mind. The thought of customers switching to a competitor is always there. So when you're always thinking about going out of business with a proven need within the market, where there are other solutions that customers can go to, then you just have less time to focus on equity and the number of dicks in the room. You're focused on making money. Another thing worth looking into is the diversity page on their website. If they have a diversity page, probably not somewhere you're going to want to work. Not to say that if they don't have it, they still don't value it internally, but if they go through the efforts of making a page for it on their website, then you definitely know. And when you're on that diversity page, also look up some keywords as well, like underrepresented minority, because then you know they're fucking social justice warriors. So as an example here, I have Asana's webpage, and we can just do a quick search for diversity. Of course, they have a diversity section, and bam, diversity and inclusion front and center. The workplace we want to see in this world is radically inclusive. And to test that they are full-blown social justice warriors, we'll search underrepresented. What do you know? Underrepresented and project include. That's another red flag. Underrepresented. And oh, look, they implement the fucking Rooney Rule. We aim to interview at least one candidate from an underrepresented group and one non-male candidate for every leadership role, and we share results internally. Not to mention bias training. We conduct training for our recruiting team, hiring managers, and interviewers to let them know how fucking white and male and racist they really are. Sometimes it's this easy. Just check their website and they'll tell you exactly what they do. The last thing worth looking at would be the job posting itself, specifically the Equal Opportunity Employment Clause, because this is something I think the government requires companies to put on their employment forms, but you can go above and beyond. You can add some extra stuff to it that might be indicative of the type of value within the company. For example, Tesla on their job postings. Here we have a Tesla Energy Advisor. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, they have their Equal Opportunity Employment Clause. They say Tesla is an equal opportunity employer. All aspects of employment, including the decision to hire, promote, discipline, or discharge, will be based on merit, competence, performance, and business needs. And then they have the stuff that you have to put. We do not discriminate on the basis of race, color, religion, all that other stuff. So Tesla has the Equal Opportunity Employment Clause. They have the fact that we don't discriminate, but they also put merit and competence within there as well. So that's a sign that, you might want to work there. One interesting thing about Tesla, though, is that this isn't on every single job posting. Here we have one for a licensed electrician, and at the bottom they have their equal opportunity / affirmative action employer committed to diversity in the workplace, but then it says nothing about merit or competency. So there is some inconsistency within Tesla itself. But again, if you go to one of Elon's other companies, SpaceX, they have a job listing here for a full stack software engineer. And then once again, equal opportunity employer. Employment within SpaceX is governed on the basis of merit, competence, and qualifications and will not be influenced by all the shit they're required to say. Contrast this to a company like Instagram. You go down to their Equal Opportunity Employment Clause and they say, Instagram is proud to be an equal opportunity and affirmative action employer. We do not discriminate based upon race, religion, color, national origin, sex, including pregnancy, childbirth, childbirth or related medical conditions, sexual orientation, gender, gender identity, gender expression, transgender status, sexual stereotypes, age, status as a protected veteran, status as an individual with a disability, genetic information, or other legally protected characteristics. Jesus Christ, that is a lot of stuff. So when they list every possible thing, maybe you don't want to work there. So to conclude, there's no easy way to do this. Understandably so. It can lead to lawsuits. It can lead to discrimination lawsuits. It could ruin your company. It could put you out of business. I get why they do it. But there are various pieces of information, various bits that you can kind of piece together to get a rough idea of what the company might be like internally. But unfortunately, there's really no way to know unless they just come out and say it like Asana, and then you know to avoid that. But other than that, you just got to piece together what you can find and hope for the best. As I said, there's no real way to do this. You're just piecing together information. So if you think there's something I left out, something I'm not thinking of, or if you have some of your own ideas, just leave a comment below. Let me and others know what you think, and good luck.